Good afternoon and welcome to today's T&D World webinar titled Protect Your Substation Asset Data, Insights from the City of Ames. It's sponsored by Power Delivery Intelligence Initiative in partnership with DNV. I'm Nikki Chandler, Editorial Director for T&D World with Endeavor Business Media. And I'm just going to start out by doing a little bit of housekeeping before we hand it over. Let me explain how you can participate in the presentation. First, if you have any technical difficulties during the session, just submit that to the questions window and our technical experts can help you out. We do recommend disabling any pop-up blocking software or extensions in your browsers, as those sometimes can cause issues with the webinar player. Additionally, we do welcome your questions during the event today. So we'll answer as many questions as possible throughout the event, and then there will be a Q&A at the end that follows the main presentation. But feel free to send in those questions at any time. To do so, simply type your questions into the question window on the side of your screen and hit submit. To refer a colleague to today's discussion, share it on social media, or you can access event resources, click the icons on the left side of your rail of your screen there. If you would like to increase the size of the windows on your screen, you can click in the upper right corner. Also, please be aware that today's session is being recorded and will be available on the T&D World website within the next 24 hours. You'll be notified by email when that archive is available. Now, I'd like to introduce our moderator. We have Mike Beeler today joining us by phone. Mike's with the Power Delivery Intelligence Initiative, or what we call PDI squared. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to you, Mike. Welcome, and please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Nikki. I appreciate it, and welcome everybody. And I'll tell you, the Power Delivery Intelligence Initiative is a group of contractors and consultants and cable manufacturers and vendors in a community in our industry that advocates for underground. We want planners and engineers, and even today, as we're going to discuss, data scientists to be well aware of underground as an option. And it's not always going to be the case that we go underground with our transmission and mostly distribution, but it's certainly something that we need to take a good close look at. One of our board members at the Power Delivery Intelligence Initiative is DNV, which is one of the hosts today. And we have two gentlemen with us today to talk. One is Ken Tarks. He's the Technical Services Supervisor at the City of Ames, Iowa. Ken, a brief hello from you.
Hello. Welcome, everybody.
And the second is Paul DiGiulio. Paul is the Account Manager at DNV Digital Solutions. Paul, say a quick hello to everybody in the audience, if you would.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today, and thank you, Mike, for the introduction.
Yeah. So Paul is sitting in Fort Collins, Colorado right now, so it's a beautiful spot on the Front Range. And Ken is in the city of Ames, Iowa. So all of you Iowa State grads are excited about that. The Cyclones have got a great football team and basketball team and such. And so Ken is part of Public Power. I think one of the things we're excited about today at PDI Squared is that we get to hear from Public Power, because many times we don't get to hear from Public Power. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ken and Paul. Paul's going to lead a discussion, a conversation, if you will, about assets and digital assets at the City of Ames. We know that data is the fuel of the artificial intelligence engine. And so how you handle your data off of your substations is one of the things that we're going to talk about today. So Paul DiGiulio, are you ready? And if you are, take it away and let's have a conversation.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mike, for that wonderful introduction. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and thank you, PDI Squared and T&D World, for having us as well. As Mike said, we're happy to highlight one of our Public Power partners and with this as well. At this point, Ken and I were going to just have a quick a conversation really around what they've been able to achieve with kind of securing their asset data at the City of Ames Electric. So Ken, I'm going to let you maybe give a little bit more introduction about kind of what the City of Ames Electric Service system looks like, and maybe a little about kind of what your responsibilities are at the utility. If you want to just kind of give a quick overview with some of the figures on the screen.
Sure. Yeah, we're kind of a medium-sized city, about 66,000 people in Ames, but we do have Iowa State University here, so 30,000 of those tend to leave in the summer, and so we become a lot smaller through the summer. We do have our own generation. We have 2 units that are available that we do have generation. They are started off as coal-fired, went to gas-fired now. We are looking towards the future and capacity issues and things of maybe taking those offline and doing some rice units. Also the feeding, we have 2 tie lines, interconnections with investor owns into the city. Right now they're 161 kV lines, and we have a 3rd one that's in progress. So we'll have 3 transmission lines, and then we do have a line running through town that connect those. So we do some power wheeling across those lines as needed as well. Have 11 substations that I'm in charge of. 2 of them are 161 to 69 kV subs, and then the rest, the other 9 are 69 to 13.8, with two of them actually being the step-up transformers from our generation to the 69 kV substation. I do have a couple peaker units, 25 kVA unit, and also 15 peaker units that are fuel oil run and gas, so they're probably considered cogeneration type unit. Can use either one. And then we do have some solar. We have a 2 meg solar here in town down by the airport, and then we do have about 30 meg that we have purchased off of a wind in northeast Story County. So that's kind of a brief synopsis of what our electrical footprint kind of is. So
great. Thank you, Ken. And I think that kind of puts some context around sort of what we're talking about in the scale of what you're doing and whatnot.
Sure.
And then just a little about maybe your responsibilities. You mentioned you're in charge of those substations, but maybe just a little bit about kind of what all that entails for our audience.
Sure. I have technical services is a department in the electric division in the electric department. I oversee metering and relaying, which is one group, and then substations is the second group. They kind of interconnect because of the relaying, which is all in the substations, but we also do relaying inside the power plant. So that's why that group is kind of a separate entity than the substation. Substations take care of everything, in the fenced in area. It's all their responsibility, everything inside the fence at substations. So my responsibility is to oversee both those groups, make sure they have what they need to do their job, to facilitate them being able to keep everything maintained, up and running. So
cool. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And then I guess the next slide here, I really just want to ask kind of, why we're here. That we're talking about kind of securing your asset data. That's a hot topic issue with, security of data and everything else. I think you have an interesting case of your story with that and motivation for taking action on it. So maybe
Sure.
just if you want to highlight kind of why did you guys take on a project to secure digital data around substations?
Sure. As the slide kind of shows, I mean, the old way, we did everything on paper, and everything, test results, everything was, all on paper. And so finding a report or something was a nightmare. It all came down to how organized you were and how you filed your system. Years ago, we went in and we purchased an asset management software, but it was more of it wasn't really made for our industry. It was more of a fleet, and we we basically made it work for us to store our data digitally so we could have some searchability on it. And so that's kind of what your second picture there shows. I mean, it was a better way than the paper because we could find things easier, but it kind of stored it in a silo. If you wanted to look at a transformer, you had to go to that specific place and look at transformers, but you couldn't see testing results for those transformers. That was in another silo where you'd have to look at testing results and then find that same transformer. So it was really kind of a cumbersome way to access your data. So we were looking for a way that we could get to our data from one spot. If I was looking in the transformers, I could see all of the test results. I could see all the repairs we've done. I could look at all the parts that we have. They could look at the manuals all from one spot. It could track from any direction and get me to the information I needed for this, in the substations. It'd tell me where everything was at. So that kind of, is what we were looking for. What started us down this path of looking for a new asset management system is that our data that was stored in this silo system was stored on a server internally in the city, and that server was also being used by the power plant with the same software that they were using it to do their stuff. They changed to a different software. Our software was stored on there, or our data was stored on there. Theirs was, but they were moving somewhere else. We were within literally an hour or 2 hours of losing all of our data because they thought our IT department didn't realize we were storing stuff on that same server. So it became a really apparent that our data wasn't very secure where it was, because our guys just happened to log in that morning and they couldn't get in. So we called IT and they said, "Oh, we took that server offline." And we're like, "Oh my God." And we were able to get it back online and get our data, but it was very close to losing all those years worth of data. So
I'm sitting far away from Ames, but that must have been a gut-wrenching feeling. Your heart's in your toes at that point of it. It
was. I was fairly new in this position. So I mean, to have that, one of the first things that jumped off the screen for us was just like, oh my God, we have a problem here. So we started looking into how we could solve that. So
yeah, good. And Ken, that picture on the left, that when you sent that over after one of our last calls, that gives me flashbacks to one of my first jobs in high school. My friend's dad had a clinic and they had to digitize tens of thousands of records. So for a whole summer, I sat in a windowless room and had to scan in files that looked just like that, one by one, and all of that. Yeah. So I can feel a little bit of that pain as well. So
yeah, luckily a lot of our paper files had already been dropped into the silos kind of system. So we had it all kind of digital already. Yeah. We just had to
absolutely
make it accessible. So
absolutely. All right, so you're hours away from getting your data completely wiped. I guess what was kind of the next step from there, and what were you hoping to achieve? Obviously, I think that's a little apparent, but maybe if you want to continue down that road.
Yeah. So I mean, the main thing came from that was that we have to make our data safe and secure, and we want it to be searchable so we can find the information that we need when we need it. But how are we going to achieve that? How are we going to make it safe? I mean, we thought it was safe on this server, but it obviously wasn't really that safe on this server because new IT people had come in. They had no idea that we were on that server at all. And so there were a lot of questions, a lot of sitting down trying to decide how are we going to, get our data so it is secure, so it's protected, and get where it can't have that happen again. We can't have that situation, happen again. And then around that time, we had kind of talked, as I was fairly new with the substations, that we wanted to become a more proactive in our maintenance schedules and our going over our substations on testing, going through, maintaining on a regular basis, our transformers, our breakers, and testing and all of that, instead of being a reactionary type where we were looking at results from oil samples every year and saying, oh, we're seeing some gassing here, maybe we should, watch that or do something about that. But instead of attacking it more from, hey, we're going to check this on a regular maintenance, and we're going to watch to see, are we starting to increase, and maybe we need to get in there before we have an outage or before we have a problem, and get in there and take care of it beforehand. So there's kind of where the driving, things of what we were hoping to achieve. And I think the software helps us get to that with them because of the it's kind of the analytics that are available in it. It's watching some of those maintenance things. It's setting those up on whatever time we've told it we would like this to be a yearly thing. We want this to be a weekly thing or a monthly thing, and it will pop that up for us. I mean, that's what we were looking for. We need something that just says, hey, this is ready. You need to do this. This is the monthly thing. It's time. And so that's kind of what we were aiming for with the software, was we needed something that would do all that for us.
Good. And I guess what were some of the benefits that led you to opt for a SaaS implementation rather than, maybe another system or on-prem system?
Yeah. So we were worried that the SaaS, going service as a software would be cost prohibitive for us. We're not a real big utility. We weren't sure that was going to be in our wheelhouse to, for price, that maybe we're going to get out of our comfort zone with that in a hurry. So we looked, into the on-prem and the SaaS both at the same time. Got some direction from my engineering group that said, if we go online, that has to be secure. We need that to have some security. So we dug into it and found the FedRAMP approved clouds are, they pass cybersecurity checks from the federal government standpoint. And so my engineering group was comfortable then that we could continue to look at SaaS, because we had places that we could put it that we felt it would be secure data. As we started going through it, the on-premises solution, we found that the cost of training our IT to run the Kubernetes software, which is a really good protection, isolates a lot of your data, puts it in different servers. And so it doesn't make any sense if you hack into a server somehow. That piece of information has to connect with the other maybe 9 servers or whatever it is to be put together to make any sense. So it was a really robust, secure system. But for an on-prem system, then I have to have 9 servers or somebody that knows how to keep all those up and make sure that they're trained and that. So we were going to have to pay for a cost of training, pay for the cost of the servers to put them in, have somebody that's always looking, making sure they're up to date for security patches and all that. And so by the time we got done comparing the cost of the cloud compared to all this that I would have to do for an on-prem, it was cheaper to go on, to the cloud and have somebody, your company, take care of that for us than to actually pay somebody and figure out how to do it all on premises. And it's all being backed up securely, on the cloud. So we have protection that way as well. So it just really became obvious that the cloud was the way we were going to move forward with this to protect our data. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure the backups help you sleep a little better at night as well. So.
The backup is probably, when they said that it would back up automatically to a separate, site, basically, a separate server, that was a great feeling that, all right, I cannot be in that position that we were, where we almost lost all of our data. So that was great.
Ken, what are some best practices in going through a competitive bid process for a system like this? That some lessons that you learned from that time.
Yeah, I think that I think you need to spell out exactly what you want. You need to go sit down, internally and come up with, this is what we need it to do. We need the software to do this, this, and this. We need it to be, user friendly so that people can run it. We need, just what do you all need it to do? And then we found that we didn't specifically say, that we wanted it to be a turnkey operation where we weren't really putting, a lot of work into it. And when we specified, we left it a little vague so we would get responses, and we kind of felt like we left it a little too vague. And so we got some where people were just going to say, well, we can take your data and dump it into this new one, but you have to set it up. Well, my guys have enough to do. We don't have that many people. We got 4 guys running the substation group. They didn't have time to sit there and reinvent this whole system. We were looking for somebody that basically could come in and take our data, put it into a nice format that then we could use it right away. And so that was a kind of a big thing. I think we should have been more specific on that. That's kind of a lesson, that we took away from it. But at the same time, you don't want to make it so specific that you eliminate and get nobody bidding on it. I mean, that nobody can get in with it. But we also, if you can find an industry, somebody that knows the industry, like DNV, that's so helpful because they're talking the same language as you. They know what your data is when they look at it. They're not saying, well, what is this? I don't know what this bushing type is. What is that? It makes no sense. And then you have to explain that to somebody. If you get somebody that knows the industry and knows what that kind of stuff is, it makes it really easy to have them look at your data and know where to put it. And they aren't always looking for, explain this to me, make this so I can build this for you even. So
in other words, asset management means a lot of things to a lot of different people and industries and all of that. So
it does. Because we weren't maybe as specific that we needed to be. We got some, software that was meant for the food industry or the trucking industry, and they were going to just convert their setup to have our titles in it, instead of, whatever, truck 484, it would be, okay, that's transformer at Stang Road, so it needed more specific, I think, our process at times, but at the same time, we had a good end result. So
yeah. Are there any recommendations you would make for a utility of your size, mid-size public power utility?
Yeah, I would say not to be scared off by, when you're looking, to be scared off by what you think is, that's a Cadillac. That is a system that, boy, I bet that costs an arm and a leg for that, because that does everything. It's that you can just tell that's the top of the line system, and there's no way we're going to be able to afford that. Going through the process actually helped us get to the point where, when we were comparing, costs, that when we had looked at DNV Cascade system, we thought this is everything we want, but we're never going to be able to pay for this. We're like, the city won't go for this. This is too high. Probably. We had no idea the cost at the time. But the other ones came in, and we realized that for them to get to where we had Cascade, their costs were going to be at or more than that anyway. So I think what I would say is, don't necessarily think that, this one's going to be out of our league, and set your sights way lower and try to make, because everything was done with Cascade. Everything was lined up, everything was taken care of, and basically we could start using it right from the beginning, and we didn't pay more than what it would have cost to have one of those others brought up to the same speed. So I think that's what we would take away from that for, you know, somebody our size is, you know, don't just assume that they're the big Cadillac, the nice version isn't going to be good enough. So, you know,
or trucking software isn't going to necessarily work for substations and power transformers. So
yeah, it really doesn't. I mean, you can make it work, but it takes so much work and so much somebody sitting there and tweaking it to make it make sense. Where with Cascade, I mean, it was all it was built for our industry, so they know what we're talking about, and it makes sense how they should set it up. That my guys just know intuitively how to use the software. It just is, oh, I can find that here because that's where I would look if I was looking for it. So it was really nice that way.
Ken, what was your experience with the implementation and support team through the implementation process?
Yeah, I feel like I'm overinflating Cascade here, but it was incredible how easy the implementation went. I mean, we gave the data that we had, just gobs of data. I mean, we had data on everything, but it was in no organizational file at all. I mean, it was really hard to find anything. And the team that we had from Cascade, because they'd worked in the industry, because they had worked in substations, had run substation crews, they knew exactly what everything meant, what everything was, and knew how it makes sense to have this here in the tree so that you can find it instead of here. Or why are you collecting this data? What do you use that for? Well, I don't know. We've always collected it. And they've been in the industry saying, well, you know, you get that information out of this test here, so why you don't need to separately collect. So Rosa was our implementation. She was wonderful. I mean, just worked with the guys if she had any questions, or said, you know, this is what I'm thinking, that we should put this in this part of the form, or this should be here, so that it makes sense when your guys are out in the field. They pull it up and that information is right there for them. And it was a very smooth transition. Took about a year is all total from when we picked Cascade till we were fully implemented. And I mean, there was a lot of data. It was just data, but she was able to get it all lined up and make it really so we could use it. So
I'm glad to hear that, and happy to shout her out as well. So
yeah.
And then it sounds like the cloud implementation and the domain specific software really was the winning combination for City of Ames. Once you guys were up and running, how did that kind of change, or what was it? How did that change your daily operations, and how you worked on a day-to-day basis?
So in the past, I mean, we kind of, when we have a foreman who assigns, you know, work for the day and what they're going to do, or what needs to, you know, our maintenance schedule, or what we need to do for this month, or that kind of thing. Well, with the software, I mean, it produces work orders for you, and those are all sitting there so that any one of the substation guys can go and look at that and say, hey, we're going to do these look critical, we'll go take care of these. And so it doesn't require the foreman necessarily to always be the one to send them out. They can look at it themselves and say, hey, this looks like it needs to be taken care of. It's due by this time. Let's get this one taken care of. So if we have vacations or sick time or whatever, the work doesn't sit there and, oh, they have to come over and find me and then say, where should we go? I mean, and I don't know where they've been, maybe the day before or 2 days, and what they've been doing. So it just made that process work so much better. And then everything is on an electronic created form that we worked through with Rosa, and they created. And so they go out to these work orders, and all that information that they need to finish that work order is automatically on their laptop, on their tablet. So they go out to perform that, and it has all the stuff they need, the form they need to fill out, tests they need to run. It has the previous test is available, so they can look at that to see, after they run a test, they can kind of do a quick look and say, oh, we've got quite a problem here. Something changed a lot between now, the last time we did it and now. And so all of that's now available right there, right then. So it's helped a lot of windshield time, I guess, where they would have had to drive back, put it in the computer back here, pull it up and look at it or grab and say, oh yeah, we needed this. We forgot to take this with us. We forgot this form that we could fill out. It's all right there and available, and that can be downloaded daily, what work orders they want. So it's really helped our efficiency, I think.
Good. We're glad to hear that, of course. So
yeah.
And getting to that point, how did training go? Was there anything that stood out to you from that point of the implementation, or any issues with user adoption?
Yeah, I mean, as with anywhere, I think that you have some people that are more computer savvy and some that aren't as computer savvy. It makes a good team at times, because some people are more mechanical, some people are more computer. I mean, it ends up making a good team. But the training was done in such a way that it was kind of a train as you go. I mean, at your speed. You didn't have to, well, you'll have to learn from somebody else, where you got to move on, keep going. I mean, they took the time, they made sure everybody understood it. All the guys knew everything, how to run every part of it. So I think that was a big plus for us, is that it didn't matter what level of computer skills you had. You could run the software, you could figure it out. They took their time and made sure that everybody knew what we were doing and how to get to certain forms, schedules, that kind of stuff. So that was very helpful for my guys. I don't think they were intimidated by it at all. They were able to go through the training and learn it all. So.
And I think that's a testament to your folks on the Substation team, Ken. The City of Ames folks were, picked it up without, being scared of the change and all of that as well. So definitely, you guys were great to work with on that front.
I appreciate that. I'm sure they appreciate it. I mean, they're pretty excited about getting the software, so that helped a lot, because it was difficult to find stuff before, and now the fact that it is so intuitive, the software makes it really easy for them to use, and has become a useful tool for us. So
good, that's great. Coming back from our slide at the beginning, as we're sort of wrapping up a little bit, how are things going today? Like, what's your day-to-day like? How are you? You've alluded to a lot of those changes from the siloed data, or God forbid the paper charts or paper files. But how are things going today in general?
Yeah, it's going really, really, really well with it. I mean, it's allowing us to get through a lot more of just like routine type maintenance issues that before we just didn't have much time to get to, because it just took more time to get ready to go do a job or whatever. And so we're able to get so some of our like weekly substation checks, where it's just kind of taking a visual, but we have it in a form now that, hey, check this, and this, and they make a physical, or they make a check mark electronically on that form that they did check that. And then anything that they come across in that kind of weekly, check that they have maybe an issue with, they can take the tablet and take a quick picture of it and just say, hey, this is something we should watch. We're watching the oil temperature. This is where it's at today. We'll go back the next week. They'll have that on their tablet, what that picture looked like last week. Hey, yeah, it looks like it's in the same position, but it's a analog thing that it has moved a little if you compare a picture to a picture instead of just having that in your memory to, hey, check this, all that we had before on a paper checklist that said, hey, check it. Well, yeah, it looks about the same. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe we are starting to see it rise, and we should check it out. So I think that's been nice, a really big plus that we weren't really expecting, I think, to be able to use the software like that. So
yeah. And on the data security front, I assume there were some improvements there as well with kind of your state of mind, at least.
well, yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel like our data is ever in jeopardy, right? I mean, we know it's being set up. We have our secure logins. We have our access points. That you can't get in to it unless you're, at a certain level. Who can look at what? So it just feels so much more secure to us than. And there's nothing wrong with it being on site, but we are a city, and our IT department is trying to help multiple departments out, and so they're kind of all over the place trying to help everybody. And so having somebody that's specifically kind of watching our stuff on the cloud, that's a peace of mind thing for us as well. So
Right. So as you're, we're sitting here today, City of Ames, what's next for you guys in the Substation group? What are you hoping to achieve kind of next with kind of the progress that you've had so far?
Yeah, we're looking, the software, because of its analytic tools and the trending, you can kind of see from test to test, and that to get some of these tests, where we have 10 years, 15 years worth of trending type data to see what's going on. And because we can see it now and look, okay, we have this type of transformer, this type of breaker in this substation, and we see the trend is kind of, we're getting gas levels trending up in this. Do we see it at another substation as well? And we can pull that up that has the same breaker or same transformer and pull it up and say, is that one doing it as well? Do we have, something internal to this type of equipment that is a problem? And those trends, those longer, 10, 15-year trends can show us that more, where before you'd have to pull it out of a paper and grab the new one and look, and you aren't seeing everything in between. The analytics of this software, you can lay it on top of each other, and you can really tell where your levels, how it, in a visual graph, just what it looks like. And so that's been something I think we're going to look for in the future here, is how that can help us with our reliability and making sure that we're catching things proactively before they become a problem. We're also, I know there's an inventory module that we didn't purchase with this, that as we have used it now, we would like to probably get that module, just because we had a foreman that he knew where everything was. I mean, he could keep it all in his head, knew everywhere, exactly where everything was stored. And he retired. And so now, well, I think it's here. We have to maybe go drive out and see, is it at that sub? No, it's not at that sub. I mean, so having the inventory module for us may be our next step, of compiling data, having data right there, so we can just say, okay, where is this part located at? Because we don't have, for our substations, necessarily a central place for everything. It's kind of distributed kind of throughout our system at the control buildings and places. So I think that'll be a big plus for us going forward if we maybe get into that. And I know that in 2026, I believe, they're coming out with the mobile connectivity. So that
I think
is exciting.
Mobile's
go
out
ahead.
now, but I think you guys were planning on it for 26. I think.
Yeah, I think that's what we heard, that it was 2026. But having that available, where now we're taking their tablet out with the stuff loaded on it, doing the work out there in the field. If we have the mobile capability, what we do in the field is right then back, to the cloud, and it's like instantaneously available to somebody else, so we can be out in the field and say, hey, can you look at this test result we have? We're out at the field, and then the foreman or the engineer can look at it and say, yeah, I think we should investigate this or whatever right then, instead of bringing it back to the shop that night, having it looked at then. I mean, we're kind of excited about the mobile aspect, having it available at the sites. So.
Well, Ken, I think that's all the questions that I had kind of for our interview piece.
Sure.
Thank you for sharing your story, kind of all the way from, that initial pain point all the way to kind of where you are today and planning on moving forward. I hope it was, useful for some of the folks on the line, and all of that. I think we probably have a couple questions from the audience, but I had just a couple slides to run over and maybe, give kind of a little break from answering all my questions and hopefully some more from the audience as well. But yeah, I think if we can get the slides back up, then we can keep going. So if folks can see my screen, I just wanted to kind of put a visual in place to show a little about kind of everything that Ken was talking about here between what they're doing at their substations. But it's really about, getting the asset data, the maintenance data, and then the testing, inspection, and monitoring data all together in one place and kind of informing what's going on out in the field. This is really what I think we touched on throughout this discussion, was bringing all this information together to inform and give an up-to-date picture about how this is affecting, some of your most critical assets out in the field as well. So just wanted to kind of put a quick visual on here about kind of what we've been talking about so far. And then Ken also alluded to some security features as well with the cloud implementation that they had. I think you mentioned FedRAMP and all of that, but just wanted to highlight a couple of the elements that we use to make sure that we have that our customers can have confidence in our cloud infrastructure. This is where your data lives, so making sure it's secure can, again, save a lot of sleepless nights. Ken talked about almost losing all of their data because of miscommunication, all of that. So this is where those backups and everything else are important. But you can see, we're using kind of best-in-class cloud infrastructure, Microsoft Azure, and some of these other protocols and practices, best practices that we use are certainly industry leading and all of that. And then just a little bit more. This is the last slide, but this is really kind of our top-down culture of security. We use multi-factor authentication for even just logging into a mobile app or the web app. So while it's accessible and at everyone's fingertips, through the multi-factor authentication and then the roles and authorizations that you set up, you can rest assured that your data is not going to be accessible by the wrong people, or the wrong person isn't going to have access and admin ability to maybe delete it by accident or anything like that. So just based on our discussion, I just wanted to highlight a couple of those features as well around our culture of security and whatnot. All right, I think that was the end of the slides that I had prepared for today. I think at this point, I'll turn it back over to Mike Beeler, and he'll take us away if we have got time for a couple questions, or if we need to get wrapping up. So, Mike, I'll have you take over.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. I appreciate that conversation that you guys had about a very interesting topic. I got a couple questions here, and then questions coming in from the audience as well. But Ken, I want to ask you a question about who in your organization led the effort. You said hey, we went from paper copies to silos to basically 21st century management of our data in our substations. Who made that decision? Is that something that you did, or did you have somebody come in and make a pitch, or did you do a public power meeting and somebody said, hey, we're doing this? How did you guys at Ames decide to do that? Who in your organization became that internal champion, if you will?
Yeah, basically it started with my substation guys and me just having discussions after we almost lost, our data like that. And then we had discussions on whether, what we could do, what we want the software to do if we get a new software, platform that is made for the utility. And so that it kind of started on that. And I don't know, I don't want to take credit for pushing it forward, but I did take it to my director, the engineers, and just said, we got to do something. And this looks like, something we would like to look at, is to have it to be an industry driven software, something that comes from our industry, knows what we're talking about. Are you willing to, there's going to be some cost involved. We're trying not to do it just on the cheap. We want something that's going to be functional, secure, and that we can use and to make our, whole system better and to help our reliability, overall. So, yeah, I'd say, that's kind of how it started. Got the approval from the higher ups, and then basically took the ball and kind of ran with it, and kind of put it together, got it through with purchasing on how we wanted to develop the bid, and kind of took care of itself. Had the engineers, the head of the direct, utility, sit in on picking the different softwares, had the 3 softwares, top ones, come in, and it was a pretty easy choice once we had the demonstration that we would go with Cascade. So
that was a great explanation that answered a couple of other questions I had here. You mentioned something about reliability and improved reliability. Here's a question from the audience. How has this software impacted the ability to complete maintenance proactively? You're doing something proactively, not reactively. How has it affected the man hours required to complete maintenance activities?
Yeah.
You want to comment on that, Ken?
Yeah, I can try and answer that. I mean, so to me, with the software, what it has in it with its analytics is that it'll take test results that we get from oil tests, and it will look at those test results, and depending on what parameters we've put in, it will color code an alert level for us. Like it'll green, everything's good, or yellow, hey, this is slightly out of what you considered not to be a good result, or is getting close to not a good result. And then there would be the red that would, my guys have always been really pretty good at looking at that result, but to have the software looking at it also, and to flag it when it's creeping up, instead of, okay, now it's critical, we have gas, harm, potential problem gases in the oil, we need to get this one reconditioned. It's telling us before that, hey, your levels are creeping up. And if you compare, the software is comparing the last read to this one, or the previous one to that even, and showing that trend, how it's going up. And then we can get it scheduled on our time, when we know we're going to have some downtime, we have some time to go do it, let's schedule it for this time. We'll have somebody come in and recondition the oil before it gets to that critical level. So that's kind of what I'm kind of meant by the proactive, that it's helping us take care of some of these problems before they become, we have to get this taken care of in the spring, right now.
Right.
It's letting us plan it a little bit, and which helps us, not have to throw everything at it. We can set it up and have a transformer down for a week, and actually go through it while we have it down, and we can check contacts while we're having the oil reconditioned. We can check seals, we can look for leaks, we can take care of lots of other maintenance issues while we are doing that, but because we're doing it on our schedule when we know we have time to go and do that. So it helps
And
us.
Ken,
Yeah.
it kind of sounds like you can probably forecast out a little bit more, like, you know, months, if not a year or two in advance, right? Or maybe even beyond that. Is that a
It's a fair, that's very fair, because that's kind of where, I mean, initially we had some that were, hey, this is critical. We need to go take care of it. And so those we had to plan pretty quickly, where now we're into the, hey, this is the next one on our list. Let's plan this for fall of 25. Let's plan this one then to take care of in spring of 26. I mean, it is allowing us, which allows us then to get out a good bid that we know we're going to get the company, or, you know, companies that we're familiar with or that we're comfortable with doing that kind of work for us, because we know that they've done it before, or, you know what, but we can take our time a little more to say, hey, let's get them in, get this one taken, this is the next one. It's not critical, but we can get it taken care of before it becomes that. So I agree, the forecasting part of it is much easier now. Before we were, if it was, you know, if it's got bad oil test in it, hey, we got to go take care of it. I mean, we were reactively responding to it.
Let me interject another couple of questions here too, Ken.
Sure.
We're getting up to the hour here. Ken, let me ask you a quick question. So you've had success with substations. How about your distribution system, your transmission system, your generation? You're a vertically integrated utility. Are you looking to apply the same things to conductors and underground cables, for example? And then, Paul, I guess I'd ask you the same question. Does DNV provide those services for a vertically integrated utility?
Ken, I'll let you go first if you want to.
I was, yeah. Right now, the way the substation software has worked for us, we definitely are looking at, you know, all of those things. I mean, wherever this can help, we actually are thinking the relaying part of it may fit really well into this system to take care of it. Now, if it has those abilities to do the conductor and some of that, we're all for it, because we already have the software. And so if it just takes a module to add that in it because of the success we feel like we're having with this, we would definitely be looking to do that. So.
And then obviously with that, we certainly can handle those assets. We have quite a few customers with T-lines, transmission and distribution line assets in their system, as well as, you know, downline devices and so on and so forth. So, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so here I got two final questions for you guys, and I think, Paul, this will come to you first. Whose data is this? Does this data belong to Ames? Or does this belong to, and let's say it's anonymous data, it's not tied to a particular utility. Does DNV consider this industry data that you can use as you apply general concepts and rules of engineering and operations and maintenance to other utilities across North America? How do you address the data ownership?
The data ownership, Ames still owns the data. I don't know I don't have the contract right in front of me, but we go to great lengths to make sure that their data is theirs and secure, and all of that. So actually, I think, Ken, you might be a little more familiar with kind of that
well, Ken, how do you feel about that? I mean, if it's anonymous data, doesn't it benefit Ames, Iowa, to compare how you operate your system relative to, let's say, 2,000 other public power utilities across North America?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I believe that the Cascade does take and use some of the best how it's used in the system or whatever, that you can use it with your data. The data itself is it's just ours, and they do a really good job of not allowing that data out there. But I do feel like they do know how the best ways to manipulate that data, how to use that data, just being in the industry, I guess. But I don't know if they use it as anonymous data to configure. I don't feel like, I don't feel like they do. I feel like that was part of our thing, is that our data it was our data. So
yeah. No, unless we've got unless we have a specific case for it, we're not going to share it without like Ken's or the City of Ames's explicit permission and all of that. We wouldn't reference it or share it in that way. So,
well, Ken, I have one last question.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to give you one last question, Paul, but I'm going to comment on that briefly, and then after this answer to this question, I'll give you each a minute to make a concluding remark. But I would just say that in general, having done this for a long, long time, I think having anonymous data for a specific utility is important because you want to maintain the security of that data. But having that anonymous data available industry-wide is important too, so that you can identify makes and models and vintages of equipment. Like I've got a transformer that was made in 1986 to 1988 of this make and this model of this size. Sure would like to know if there's an anomaly going on with that transformer across the industry, if I could pick that up. Well, I can only do that if I have a large data set. Leading me to my last question for you, Paul, with regard to artificial intelligence. It seems to me like data is the fuel for the engine of artificial intelligence. So it seems to me like we have a short-term opportunity here. I think Ken might have said, well, 10 to 15 years from now, we might be seeing some trends. How about like 10 to 15 months from now, we might be seeing some trends? What do you think about that, Paul? Is DNV moving in the realm of artificial intelligence?
You've been around the industry a lot longer than I have. I think you're going down the right path on that. I think that ties into, we've got over 100 utilities. So if there were an opportunity to do something like that, that sounds like it would be a great opportunity. We might steal that idea for our, user conference later this year or part of our customer advisory board. We certainly need everyone's permission to do something along those lines and all of that.
Cool.
But,
I'm actually going to be at your users conference this year in Portland, and you might I might ask that question. Okay. Well, that's been a great discussion, guys. And Ken, I really appreciate. I'm going to give you a minute to wrap up here with some concluding remarks, but I'm just going to say that I really appreciate a small public power utility stepping forward and sharing the things that you've done. You're vertically integrated on top of that. You're a college town on top of that. I think you've really got a great message for the industry. And thank you very much, Ken Tarks, for sharing that today. And give us a concluding remark and a good do it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, a lot of times, you don't get a lot from the public power sector. It's a lot of stuff coming from IOUs and industry leader type stuff. So I appreciate the comments, compliment there. I just would reiterate to any medium-sized, small-sized utility. I mean, take a look at Cascade. It's phenomenal software. I mean, it just the amount of time we don't have to spend looking for past data now. We can just you can put a search on anything and it'll tell you how many, you have of that type, that U-bushing. We found that we had a U-bushing that's considered, to potentially be problem. And we had one that we found in a breaker and found that we had one other one in the system. By using the system, it was able to track it. And so we've got rid of both of those and replaced them. And it's just something we wouldn't have caught necessarily before. So it's worth looking into them. It's good software.
Good. Thank you, Ken. And Paul, with those accolades, I'll hand it over to you to give us some concluding remarks as we wrap up today.
Just thank you to everyone that took the time to join. Thank you, Mike, for moderating, and to T&D World and PDI Squared. And thank you, Ken, for sharing your story and being frank and candid with the audience. I hope people came away with this with just, hopefully sparking some new ideas or taking away some lessons learned in general and how they can do their job better, because, we're all part of the electric industry, and reliable power is our end goal. So thank you to everyone, and really appreciate the time.
And on behalf of the Power Delivery Intelligence Initiative, I'll say thank you, Paul. You guys are members of the board of directors at PDI Squared, so thank you to DNV for that. And go Cyclones, and maybe we'll see you at the College World Series out there in Omaha. And all the best to you, everybody. Thanks for listening. Nikki Chandler, back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike, and definitely thank you to Paul and Ken for joining us today, and for Power Delivery Intelligence Initiative for your partnership and sponsorship for the webinar today as well. And then thank you for all of you for joining. We have run out of time, so if there's any questions we didn't get to, or if you want to contact these guys, you're welcome to do that. They can get back to you via email. So just have a great rest of your day.